Floodgates podcast. My name is Joey Brake.
And I'm Kenton Brake, and this is just a catalyst for us to have a great conversation.
Yeah, we're so excited for today's topic and to get into the idea and the concept of generosity. At the time we're filming this podcast, we just got out of our Vision Sunday. It was such a special Sunday sharing our initiatives for 2024 and the vision for this next year. Impossible is nothing.
Impossible is nothing. What a great vision God's given us. As a church, as a body, we can all run with it and grasp it.
Yeah, I truly believe 2024 is going to be super special.
Yes.
We got to share some of our initiatives like Floodgates Conference, Floodgates Worship. We got to share a little bit of the things we want to do next year with our elements and expansion. And we're actually in the middle right now of our giving campaign, Foundation for the Future. Yeah. And I love this time that we always take at the end of the year to invest into the church,
right.
To invest into the future of our church. And I know in this campaign we're focusing on our elements, which are departments of development, whether it be future, FG Kids, young adults. We have our groups. We're going to do guys' nights, girls' nights, couples, socials. Mm-hmm. We're also focusing on our expressions. So that would be this podcast. Right. It would be, Floodgates Conference, FG Global with our partnerships in Africa, in Paraguay, in Cuba. And we're also focusing on our expansion. And that would be our operations. That's also some things we need to invest in to grow and develop. So we're really, really excited. And we truly want to just give people the opportunity right now. Mm-hmm. We've never done this before, but Foundation Sunday is coming up December 3rd. And it's a Sunday we take to invest into the future of our church, to give that beyond of what is required or what is necessary to invest into the future. Yeah. And so all these things are so beautiful, but it takes people to believe in it and invest in it and to give to it. And I truly believe right now we want to just give people the opportunity to give. I know we do this podcast, we encourage people, we speak to people. And so if anything has impacted your life and any of the podcast episodes have truly impacted you, and you want to find a way of how you can give back, you can go floodgateschurch.com/give, and you can be a part of what we are building, this foundation for the future.
Yeah, because one act of generosity can change a whole person's life and their future. And so we just want you to give sacrificially, we want you to give generously, and we want you to give freely. It comes from the heart, and it comes from a free will offering to God.
Yeah, truly, our decisions today make an impact on tomorrow.
Yes.
Our sacrifice creates a legacy, and truly our giving has the capacity to change a future.
So good. Yeah, and this whole idea of generosity is, Jesus spoke a lot about the kingdom of God, and then he taught a lot about finances. And so it's so important that we understand what really generosity is and why we live by it. And really it's one of our values here at Floodgates, that we value generosity as a lifestyle. And it only becomes a lifestyle when you truly live it out.
It's so beautiful. And I love that it is a lifestyle because it is a part of every aspect of our life. Yes. It's not just a to-do. It's just not some aspect of who you are, but it's your lifestyle. It's part of everything you do. And one of our key verses when it comes to generosity, and something I always turn to when it talks about giving, is Luke chapter 6, verse 38. And I wanted to share with everyone listening today. It says, "Give away your life, you'll find life given back. But not merely given back with bonus and blessing. Giving, not getting, is the way. Generosity begets generosity." And I think the truth is generosity starts with a decision to value, to give.
Right.
It starts with your first initial decision. I am a person who values giving. And the truth is, it is really a paradox. Yeah. Generosity, it doesn't really make sense. But this scripture makes it so plain and simple that it's not about getting, but it's about giving.
So
and
good.
giving begets generosity and generosity and generosity, and this cycle that we get to live in a lifestyle of generosity.
Right. And as a leader, as a pastor, we don't teach on giving so you can give, so we can receive. We teach you to follow this principle of generosity so that you can live the blessed life God's created for you to live. Mm-hmm. And for you to understand that as you give more, you get more to give more. Mm-hmm. And so it's so rich to have this understanding that as you give away your life, give away your resources and time and talents, that you'll just be part of that paradox. Because we're taught in school, 10 is always greater than 9. Mm-hmm. But in God's math, 9 is greater than 10.
Yeah. I love that it's so human of us to have this fight between greed and giving.
Wow.
And I think it's very natural for us to live with closed hands and live in this selfish desire that every penny is mine and all about me. But truly, this paradox of generosity is the complete opposite. Yeah. Is that this is not about me, and it's for people. Right. I even think some of our first words is mine. Right. You know, just from a young age, it's just in our nature to be greedy and that everything is about me and mine. And I think one of the first things we are taught, a first principle we are taught, is sharing is caring. Right. And it might be a cliche, but I truly think that the intention is there to shift greed into generosity. Right. And I think one way we could say it today is that caring is giving. Yeah. That when you truly care about someone, when you truly care about something, you will be willing to do what it takes to go above and beyond to give.
Right. And it goes back to your mindset. The actions that you are living out each and every day are determine what you believe about God, what you believe about yourself, and what you believe about life. Mm. And so if we can look at God and understand who God is, that he's a giver. Yeah. He loved you so much, he gave his son. Yeah. And he's given you life and breath and resources. And we tend to give everything away except for our wallet. Mm-hmm. Like we'll hold on to that, like you said, with that stingy mindset, that what's mine is mine and I need to hold on to it. And it's amazing that when we shift to our reality of who God is, he's a giver, so that we can give. And really it's all his anyways. We're just walking through the steps of the tithe of obedience of 10%, and then we become good stewards and managers of the rest of his money, not our money.
That's good. I love how you pointed out the mindset. Yeah. I think our mindset is very important when it comes to money. I really think that our mind matters. The way we think about our money matters with what we do with our money. Yeah. And I think there's many mindsets when it comes to our finances, but we must first know our framework is so significant. Yeah. The way we view our money and our assets and all of the things that we own are so vital to the way we live. I know that it's easy to live with a lack mindset. Yeah. Or there's also the alternative to live with abundance. Right. And I think just that simple framework shift will change the way that you live today.
Right. And we always taught you growing up that you're never broke. Your funds were allotted elsewhere. Yep. And it goes back to that. You're either going to live with a poverty mindset or a mindset of great wealth. And as you shift your focus on giving to give instead of giving to get or getting things from life, then when you have that understanding, you'll fully grasp the privilege it is to be generous. It's really a joy. It really becomes a privilege. It becomes the more you can add value to people and help them and encourage them, your life is just more focused on the eternal instead of the temporary here on earth.
Yeah. I think you can't be generous if you live broke. Yeah. And I think the truth is that there's two kinds of givers. There's the stingy giver, and there's the generous giver.
For sure.
And when God looks at you, what kind of giver does he see?
Right. We all love the generous giver when we're on the recipient side. But when we're on the giving side, sometimes we hesitate.
Yeah, and I think it's so true because we all love to receive.
For sure.
And something so special and unique about that feeling. But I think when you give generously, you feel that feeling even more than what it was to receive. And what I love about generosity is that we have an opportunity to give. Yeah. It's not like to be generous, it's not required, but it will elevate the way you live your life.
That's so true.
And so when you think about your money, when you know your mind matters, you can create this framework where I have a choice. I can be a stingy giver or a generous giver. So why don't you be like the giver you would like to receive from?
Wow.
Why don't you give like the giver you would like to receive from?
That's so good. Yeah, it's so true. When you think about even some of the parables Jesus taught, like the Good Samaritan parable, you have all these 5 unique individuals encountering a situation, but you see a completely different response with what they were holding on to. For example, you have the one that actually gets beat up and robbed and left for dead. Then you have the robber's perspective. Then you have the Levi and the priest's perspective. Then you have the Good Samaritan. And the robber's perspective was, what is yours is mine, and I'm going to take it. I learned this a long time ago from John Maxwell. He would teach on this, but he said that robber's perspective was, what is yours is mine, I'm going to take it. And that's one way to view life. I'm going to go after what's not mine and take it. And the other perspective was the Levi and the priest. And as they were walking down, they didn't want to be inconvenienced because they were on their way to the temple. If they touched blood or a dead body, they would be unclean. And so they couldn't afford or take the time. So they said, what is mine, and I'm going to hold on to it. I could give it, but I choose to hold on to it. And that was their perspective. Then you have the Good Samaritan, which I hope all of us would grasp and live this way. The Good Samaritan says, what's mine is yours, and I'm going to give it to you. And so he actually bandaged the person that got beat up, put him on his transportation, his donkey, took him to the closest inn, and he went above and beyond. When he was leaving, he said, here's some money for his stay, and if he overexceeds that, when I come back, I'll reimburse you. And what a different way of looking at life or living at life. When you see a need, don't look at it as an inconvenience, look at it as an opportunity to be generous.
I love that. Living your life with the framework of looking for opportunities to be generous.
Right.
Because the truth is there's so many opportunities and there's so many ways we can be generous, whether that be with our money specifically, but also with our time, our talent, our energy, our focus. And I really believe that if we live looking for opportunities to give, we will find them.
Yeah.
That the opportunities are there waiting for us to find them. We just need to be seeking for it.
Right. And you can be generous with a smile, a hug, words of affirmation. All these things can be a way that you can incorporate past your funds, but also things that you can do as an individual to be generous with your time and talent and resources.
Yeah. I think God created us to live in a life of freedom. That he wants us to experience financial freedom. And I think a lot of people might live today not being generous because of that lack of financial freedom. Wow. But the truth is, God has already set you free. Sure. So how can we on this earth and our time here make use of our resources in a way so that way we can be generous? And I think one mindset we first have to take on is the mindset of a driver. Wow. You're not a passenger. You are a driver when it comes to your money. And so I think a lot of us, we need to take control of the steering wheel and actually direct where we are headed with our money. That money is simply a vehicle.
It's a tool.
It's a tool. It's not the end all be all. And how can we use it as a tool and drive it to where we want to go? We also need to be a manager of demands.
Right.
I believe that we are highly demanded of in today's world when it comes to all of the things we spend our money on. But how can you find ways to make opportunity into the demands of your life and be a manager of demands?
Right.
We also have to be disciplined when it comes to our money. one thing I say, like when I got married, the best thing that happened to me is I had a budget.
Wow.
For the first time ever, I took it so seriously. And I think truly I found freedom on the other side of it. A lot of people, I think, they look at budgets in a negative light, but truly it's so freeing because everything is allotted to the right place. You know, this is for this is going here, and you are in control of where your money is going, so you are prepared. And I think a lot of times we look at our money maybe at the end of the month and we say, wow, I've been a passenger, where did it all go? But it's because we haven't been disciplined with our money. We must have priority with our money. In order to maximize your money, you must be disciplined.
Yeah, and it goes back to responsibility too. That you're giving this to be a manager of it. You're not giving all these funds for you just to waste or spend it on you or spend it on what you're desiring. It's really, it goes back to God's given you this. What will you use it for? Will you use it for others? Will you use it for His glory? Will you use it for extending His kingdom? Will you maximize what you have in your hands and multiply it?
Yeah. We also believe that we have to make a decision when it comes to our money.
For sure.
We have to make a decision.
Decide up front.
And decide, first things first, this is what I'm going to do. It's the same thing with rent. First of the month, no matter what, you're going to have to pay it. And I think there's so many things in our life that we don't have that same urgency and priority, and we need to create that for ourselves. No one can create that for you. And you have to make that decision that this is priority when it comes to my money. And I know for me, a high priority is my giving. My giving is the 10% of the first thing I make. And that is not being generous. That is my giving. But living without that priority, it's like living with a hole in your wallet. There'll never be enough without that urgency and that priority. And so I want to challenge whoever's listening to today. Maybe you've never taken that step, but it truly depends on how much do you trust God. Because the truth is He can do more with that 10 than you can.
That's good. And that's one thing, even on our currency in the United States, it says, in God we trust. And what a great reminder. Every time you're pulling out a 20, a 50, a 100, a dollar, that you're saying, God, I trust you with this investment. I trust you with this resource. And so it goes back to that. Do you trust God with everything that you have?
Yeah. And the truth is, money is so limited.
Yeah.
I think truly what matters most is what is eternal. And generosity truly shifts our earthly earnings into an eternal impact.
That's so good.
That it makes something that leaves a mark on someone's life, someone's story, someone's faith. And I can look back on my life, and my life is a byproduct of generosity.
Yes.
That every moment of the way I can think of people that have invested into me, that have given sacrificially because they believe in me, supported me, and love me. And I think, what world would we live in today if others could experience that through you? That through your life, you are making an impact, and you are building something and creating a legacy that, wow, when I think of this person, they are so generous. They never failed to be generous to me, to believe in me, to support me. And I can say that for my life, but I want to be able to hear that people say that about me one day. That because of His generosity, I am a byproduct. And I believe that that's how generosity begets generosity, is this unending cycle.
Right. And that's what Scripture says, is here today and gone tomorrow. And so what you do with your here today matters. What your choices, your decisions, your mindsets matter. What you do with what you have right now. Because that's the truth. Here today and gone tomorrow. And so when we can adopt this mindset of life that is temporary here, but what you're doing for eternity really matters, you'll begin to shift your priorities. You'll begin to understand that wow, valuing this person and giving them what they need in that moment will far exceed what me holding on to this temporary resource.
Yeah, generosity truly unlocks a new dimension of value.
Yeah.
And I think in today's society, we measure wealth off of how many digits are in your bank account, how many assets you have, what job title you are, what position, the status. But truly, a life of generosity, it unlocks a new dimension of value that is eternal. And I love, there's a scripture that talks about this foundation for the future, and it talks about the treasure of your heart. And I think today we're so focused on how can we make more money that we're losing focus of that becoming the treasure of our heart.
Wow.
In reality, I think God calls us to have a heart for him and for his people.
Yeah.
And that is what generosity is all about. God, may we live a generous life for you and for people and set our greed aside and invest in something eternal. Because the truth is, money is so finite.
Yeah.
It's here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah, and we just it goes back to a choice. What are you going to do? You're either going to let it run you, or you're going to, like you said, be disciplined in your choices. And disciplined people have disciplined thoughts that turn into disciplined actions. And so those actions are the result of what you choose to live by. And so every day you can make a choice. You could say, I'm here to give, not to get. I want to be generous. I want to impact somebody. I want to say what's mine is yours, and you can use it.
Yeah. It's God's job to supply. It's your job to steward.
Yeah.
So how can you steward your resources well? I recently gave a talk, and I was talking about pillars of excellence. And one of the pillars of excellence was our money. And I believe our money is so vital to how we live because it is so vital to how we function. And so I asked this question, and it really challenged me as a person, but I saw it resonated with so many people. But it was, when you look at your money, is it all about you? Is it about the new shoes you wanted, the car payment of your dream car, maybe your dream home, maybe all about the things you desire and are seeking and are wanting? Or is there anything about other people? Is there anything about your giving to God? Is there anything about your generosity? And I think it's easy to live a life of greed. Yeah. It's so natural. It's so human. I want this. I desire this. I seek this. It's mine. But I think it's so much more worth it when you live a life of generosity.
Right. And that's what produces joy. Because really, reality, when you don't have peace, money can't buy peace. Yeah. When you don't have health, money can't buy health. Money can't solve everything. And so it goes back to just being a good steward. I mean, I think about the parable of the talents when the master gave one 5 and 1 2 and 1 1, what they did with it. We're not to sit on it and just hold on to what God's given us. We're called to generate. We're called to multiply what we're given. And it's amazing, that's the one area Jesus said you're wicked. And when you were lazy with the resource you were given, and you just held on to it. And so he took it away from that one and gave it to the one who had doubled his, multiplied it. So we just have to understand the process of even God's understanding of math and what the resources are given to us for. Yeah. It's all from him. It's all his anyways. We tend to see when we get money, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. No, it's what God has supplied you to be a good steward with and multiply it and generate, create money.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how it's easy to question if we can trust God with our money, but in reality, we should question if God can trust us.
Oh, that's so good.
And I truly believe that we think that we know it all and we have it all together, but the truth is we do not know what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes we're driven by our motives, our desires, what everybody else has today. But truly, when it comes down to it, can God trust you? And I believe that will challenge you in your giving, just of your tithe.
Right.
Because truly that is just the minimum, and that's the standard. But when it comes to your generosity, is going above that and beyond that. And so I would challenge you, where do you trust God at today? Maybe it's having that honest conversation with yourself and saying, I'm living a life for myself, and I don't want it to end here.
Right.
I want to live a life of generosity that will make an impact, that will leave a legacy, that will affect someone's future. And I believe when we truly make that shift, we'll begin to shape these new mindsets, to get these new perspectives of being a good neighbor and what that looks like, to create opportunities to be generous and to give, and also to be disciplined and to be resourceful, but also to maximize our money.
Right, and that's what self-reflection does. It's you looking at your budget. Did you stay within your budget? It's reflecting on where your heart is and where your time is and where your resources are going. And it's allowing you to self-examine the things that are coming out of your heart. You know, the words, the choices, the decisions, the attitudes of what you're doing on a daily with your choice in your life. Because the reality is we're here today and gone tomorrow. So let's make an impact. Let's be generous. Let's choose. It's a choice to be. I'm wealthy. I'm rich because God has blessed me with grace and truth and His love. He's given me His Son, Jesus. What more could I need? And so it's when we have this perspective and know God and who He is and the moments He wants us to walk in, it makes it so much easier just to give. It makes it so much joyful. It makes it not a burden, not a pain, not, oh, when am I going to get it again? Because He says if you're faithful with a little, He'll give you much. Yeah. And that just goes back to where you're walking with God and your trust and your relationship. But I just want to challenge those that are listening today too. Start somewhere. You know, maybe it's just giving an extra hug. Maybe it's a smile. Maybe it's paying for the person behind you in the line of the drive-thru. Maybe it's seeing a homeless person and actually stopping, get out of your car and say, let me buy you some food or let me give you a blanket. Whatever it is that God's stirring in you, just make a decision to start today. And then you'll see the process. You'll see that the more you give, the more you have to give.
So beautiful. Generosity truly changes your life.
Yeah.
I think it's so vital to know that generosity changes you. That we think we're doing so much for other people, but in reality, it's changing us from the inside out.
So good.
Changing our heart, changing our thoughts and our mindsets. And it's truly changing and challenging us to become more like Jesus.
Yeah.
Because what did Jesus do? He gave it all.
Yes.
Jesus gave His life for people. So if He could give His life, who are we to hold back our wallet? Who are we to hold back our money? Who are we to hold back our time? Who are we to hold back our effort? Because I truly believe that we can use what He's given us to change the future, to make a legacy, to make a shift that is so great and so beyond us and beyond anything we could ever spend.
Yes, so good.
And I think it comes with a cost, and it is a sacrifice, but it's something that is so worth it and so beautiful.
It is so
and
good.
That's why it's our lifestyle. It's truly a way to live by. It's beyond just getting, but giving, so that others can experience true life. Generosity is our lifestyle. And I truly believe if you take on this principle, it will change you.
For sure.
It will challenge you. It will shape you. But also, it will change others. Because generosity has the capacity to change a future.
That's so good.
Such a great conversation. I love being able to talk about this and encourage people with their finances. And I believe if there's one thing you could take away from this is just be a good steward of it and maximize your money. Don't make it all about you, but live a life of generosity and you will see a change in your life. You're listening to the Floodgates podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have so much more in store. This is just the beginning. But we're just here to live by faith, to be known by love, and to be a beacon of hope. And as we continue to have these conversations and build this community, I believe that we will see a change, not only in our own lives, but all around us and people listening to us. And I truly believe that as we grow, we will grow together, and more people will be able to experience the same life change as we have.
It's so good. Thank you once again. It's a privilege and honor to be on this podcast, but just to pour in these truths that God's poured in our lives and try to maximize it and use it for His glory.
Amazing. We'll see you next time.